Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. Imagine getting to a point where your business fits perfectly into the life you've always dreamed of having. That's one of the things my guest today asks of you. Because when you align with the fullness of who you are, it's like the lights turn on and life flows. My mother always demonstrated to me that life is a struggle. And that's really what I learned in my cells. And it took me a lot of unlearning to realize that that wasn't true, and that belief really gets in the way of being able to create in one's life. And so when I met my guest today, we had the opportunity to meet online and have a conversation. And it's been a while, so it's like I can't even remember all the things we talked about. But I knew that I wanted to have her as a guest on Wisdom Talk Radio. And so today we get to do it. And so, stay tuned. We're going to have some fun. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the Inner Guidance Mastery Blueprint. Head there to discover your quantum connection with your inner guidance system, which is what allows you to create in your life in a way that is stress-free because you have discernment. It allows you to know what direction to go in, what steps to take, and who to bring in as part of your team. Take the quantum connection quiz there on the Baca Institute website, because your quantum connection is the first step of aligning with your own inner guidance at a deeper level than you ever thought possible. It's the secret to creating what you want in your life. So my guest today is Lara Wellman. She is a business coach who believes small business owners can make more money, love the work they do, and still have time to enjoy their lives. Yes, yes, yes. Through coaching, group programs, workshops, and events, she helps business owners get the clarity they need to take the right action for them and their business. Welcome, Lara. I'm really delighted that you are here today. It's taken us a while to get here, but we're here.
We're here. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So we referenced the ease and flow and the struggle side of things, or the hard work. People seem to believe that unless you're working hard, it's not valuable, it's not important. So why do we think we have to work so hard? Why is that such a value?
I think we've been taught it for generations, right? That we need to work hard and we need to work in the factories in the Industrial Revolution. Like, there's so many things that have taught us that we're supposed to work hard, and that the harder you work, the more successful you're going to be, right? So it's always, impressive when you hear these stories. It's not actually impressive, but it's presented as such, right? You're like, look how hard they worked. They barely slept. They're willing to do anything to to get to their goals. People sacrifice their families. I saw a quote recently from somebody who said, like, if you're sleeping like a decent amount of hours a night, we're told how much we should be sleeping a night. And like the business experts out there will say, if you're actually letting yourself sleep that much, like, you clearly don't want to reach your goals enough. Like, that's the stuff we hear constantly, hustle culture. So we've been taught, if you really want something, you're going to work till it hurts to get it, or else you don't want it that much, I guess.
So there's something in that equation that you're calling into question. That equation of hard work equals success. Hard work means you really want it. Must work hard in order to demonstrate to the world that you're worthy.
Yeah. And the flip side of it, and I talk a lot about laziness, is that because of that hard work way of thinking, we think that rest is lazy.
Oh, yes.
And so I caught myself in this spiral for years because regardless of any achievement that I ever had, right? If I was running a
Mhm.
successful business, if I was launching, I ran a conference for 250 people 4 years in a row, and I had extra websites. I did all kinds of things, and then would still say to people, but I'm really lazy. And they'd be like, Lara, I feel like this and this, like, don't, they don't, it doesn't make sense. But
Mhm.
to me, all of those messages that I'd heard over my whole life about people who really want things just are always working meant that if I decided I was going to spend the weekend in my pajamas watching Netflix, I
Mhm.
clearly wasn't like the people who really wanted success.
So it meant that you didn't really want success and something else too. I mean, was there another piece to that?
I think it's you don't want it enough. You're not willing, you're not like you are lazy, right? Like somebody who just wants to sit around and do nothing. Like again, if you think about the advice you hear out in the world when they say, there's always more time. If you wanted it badly enough, you would do it,
Mm. Mhm.
right? So every goal you don't reach, it's because you're not willing to give up your TV time. It's because you're not willing to give up that nap on a Saturday afternoon,
Mhm. Mhm.
which implies I should be willing to give that up.
Yes. Yeah. And never forget about your health and well-being or your
Or your
family.
happiness
Mhm.
or right, any
Yeah.
of that stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you want to be successful, you should be willing to give up all of those things and just
Mhm.
work harder.
Scary.
It is. And the harder you work, for many people, the closer you get to burning out, right? When you're unhappy, when your work,
Mhm.
like, I do not think I do my best work when I have not had any rest.
Mhm. Mhm.
But in that mindset, it doesn't actually matter. It's only how much I worked. So if I say, I'm going to only work a few days a week, I'm going to work 3 days a week.
Mhm.
Imagine, imagine, right?
Woo.
Oh, must be nice.
Wow.
Um, it is nice,
Mhm.
right? I don't always only work 3 days a week, but I try to aim for definitely not 5,
Mhm.
and many weeks 3. But when I'm working, I have more energy, I have more creativity, I have more motivation than when I'm tired, exhausted, and running on fumes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
is it actually that I'm going to get more work done when I'm working more hours? Not necessarily, but we haven't detached those things from one another.
And it strikes me that it's the same idea of trading time for dollars.
Absolutely.
And when we have that mentality, that's not the mentality of the investor. That's not the mentality of the person who really creates wealth. Uh, when we think, well, I have this many hours that I can give, so therefore that means this is the only amount I can make. So there's never any thought about leverage. There's never any thought about creating something that has bigger reach and bigger possibility. And certainly not for the entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of fallacies out there. There are people who like if hard work will make you successful, but there are an awful lot of people who are working minimum wage, who are working really hard, and that has
Mhm,
not
mhm.
meant that they are suddenly flush with money.
Right.
And then there are the people who are investing money and not working at all, who are. But it's the hard work is important
Mhm.
is what's taught to the worker bees, right? So we're like, we got to work hard, we got to work hard, we got to do
Mm.
the things.
Mhm.
And so it's everywhere. We hear it all the time. So we think it's true. And if we don't stop and say, is it true?
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of things like that. There's a lot of things like that. But is it true? Maybe I don't need to struggle this much in order to reach my goal.
So there's something about the struggle, there's something about the what we've been taught, what we've been fed, what we believe, and how do we stop to how do we stop to question that? Because when we're in survival mode, what I know is that, well, when I'm in survival mode, everything goes out the window of everything I know is to be true. I'm there with fear. I'm there in self-doubt. And then the internal push to simply work harder because it's the easiest thing to do, if you know what I mean.
It is also, it's the only one that pops to mind most of the time. And so part
Right.
of it is, if you hear conversations like this one or start to have conversations like this one, it's just the idea that when something doesn't feel good, right, which happens in our life, something doesn't feel good. Does that mean we just have to deal with it? Or can it mean, if this doesn't feel good, is there another way? And that's such an important thing, because there I believe so strongly there is not one way to do a thing. But most of us have been taught to think there is, right? Again, we'll go back to school. When you go to school and then you study, and now you must get 100% on your test if you are successful, somebody who was able to do it exactly the way they were told to do it is the one who got it right. So you think, I need to get this just right. I need to know what it is that I'm supposed to do. Somebody else has figured this out. I need to know what that thing is. And so if you think there's just one way to do a thing, and it doesn't work for you, then you just feel bad about yourself and you think, I just need to do it. I just need to do it. And then
This
you
is how
keep
it is.
bashing into something that's not working.
Yeah.
And
And
if you
that might extend even to doing something that you really don't like to do. And I don't mean doing it just in a way that you don't like doing, but I think about people who, I think of a good friend of mine who really in his soul was an artist and was very much geared towards, oh, you got to be in business. This is what your grandfather did. This is what your father did. Here, you're going to be part of my company. And while he loved that part of himself that was an artist was never acknowledged and never brought in. And so until he started looking at how else could I do my life? And it wasn't that he wanted to give up what he was doing. He wanted to do it in a different way, which he did finally.
And again, you know, artists, writers, we've decided that people who do that are going to suffer in poverty, right? Like there's so many things that we're like, okay, so you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to do that.
Right. Because you
You're
better
gonna
have
be
a backup
poor.
plan.
Yeah. You're gonna be poor. If you're the responsible thing is to go work hard somewhere else, go work hard.
Yeah, I remember, oh boy, when I wanted to take a couple of months and travel across Canada. And my oldest brother, who was very much of that mindset of you do this and then you do that and then you work hard and you work hard and you work hard. And he was very successful. However, the fact that I wanted to take off a couple of months, and it was between university and graduate school, is a kind of a perfect time to do it. He was so appalled that I wanted to do it. And how could you do that? You're not being responsible. And, all of that gets layered on us so that we don't have access to our own internal compass. And we're taught not to believe in ourselves. How do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going off the path is seen as irresponsible. It's seen as, I mean, you're just not supposed to do it. You're not supposed to do it. And I think we're starting to do it more, but it's very much, right? Like the right steps, success. What is it supposed to look like, right? For years, to me, it's like you're supposed to. You're supposed to. For me, it was finish high school, go to university, get a degree, get married, have children, buy a house, buy a car, buy a bigger house, get a promotion, right? Like it seemed like that was what you were supposed to want. And I think a lot of us, I think a lot of people have done it over the years because they were supposed to want it and never stopped and said, do I want it?
And then they end up with a heart attack or, some other disease where they just are because they've been unhappy.
But they still think that's how it had to be.
Yeah.
So if that was how it had to be, then they think their kids should do it because that's how it should be. They think their siblings should do it. That's what it's supposed to be.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
also, and I'm not saying this is everybody, but also there's a certain level of like, why'd you get to do that? I had to go do it the way it was supposed to be.
Ah.
Why do you get to go do it the other way?
Ooh, so have you experienced that? And I'm really curious about, I mean, how you got out of that way of thinking, that kind of mentality of got to work hard, got to do it this way. What was it that opened you up or opened your eyes?
So I think the response I get from people is like the it must be nice. That's the
Oh,
whole,
to do
which
the
it
three
must be
days of
nice
work, 3 days a
is
week
not,
work.
yeah, that's not like a thing they're saying um kindly, right? They're like,
They're not saying,
must be
show me
nice.
how to do it.
Yeah. But what I did, I mean, the reason that I was able to step into it at first was not with a positive mindset, right? Like
Mhm.
I did it first by just being like, well, I guess I'm going to be lazy. Well, I guess I'm going to choose to not be successful because I really want to step off the treadmill, spend time with my kids. I'm just going to wait to be successful, right? Maybe
Ah.
later on I will figure it out, but right now it's okay if I don't want to. It's okay if I'm being lazy. It's okay if I'm not being successful. I'm going to do this instead. As opposed to being able to say it is quite successful to choose what you want
Mhm.
in life.
Mhm.
And when I started to do a lot more mindset work and learning things, I realized I could still prioritize my family, my health, and my life and make money. I didn't have
Mhm.
to choose. But when I first chose it, I thought I had to choose and I decided family and just that I didn't have the capacity to do all the things. Like, I didn't have the capacity and I really didn't want to. Um,
Mhm.
like I said, laziness is a thing I've been talking about a lot lately. There's a couple books I've been reading. I've been
Mhm.
working on a book that is
Mhm.
almost done. And the book, one of the books that's out is called Laziness Does Not Exist. And I can't remember the author right off the top of my tongue, but there's all kinds of messages around how people burn out because they don't want to be lazy. So they work and they work and they work and they work and they work. And I'm trying to also talk to the people who were like, I didn't do that. I didn't get on and like hustle till I dropped. But
Mhm.
as a result, I tell people all the time that I'm lazy and I think it in my core, right? I'm like, I'm not very good, right? Like that's where you come from once you
Mhm.
start to, if you didn't try to get to that peak of productivity and
Mhm.
all the things, you're like, no, you know what? I'm not getting on there. I know so many people who are just like, well, it's just because I'm not very good at that. I
Mhm.
am lazy. I'm not productive. I just decided I didn't want to be successful. So all these words and ways of
Mhm.
thinking about yourself
Mhm.
are how you justify not working so hard you burn out. And
But
it's
you had
just,
this different thought process. You said you didn't stepped beyond the either or the and you went into the well, you can't how can I have it both? So how did you figure out the best way to do this thing called your life?
yeah. Part of it was right around the time I turned 40, I had an ADHD diagnosis.
Mhm.
And then I read a bunch about women in ADHD
Mhm.
and how that presents in things like never as tons of shame, so much shame around like not being able to keep your house tidy or I mean one for me is like not being able to keep up with all the like school forms and like this and that you're supposed to do for the kids or whatever. Like I am just terrible at this, right? I'm so bad. No, you can't come to my house. It's a disaster because I'm too busy doing this and that. And blah. And so there was so much shame. And for me, the ADHD diagnosis and learning about it and realizing like I don't need to feel shameful about this. There's a reason.
Mhm. And who gets to say that this other way is the way it should be anyway?
Absolutely. It was like that first step of this isn't just that I am too lazy to stay on
Mhm,
top
mhm,
of the school forms and to keep my
mhm.
house tidy, right? By now I was supposed to be grown up enough that I would keep on top of all these things. Everybody told me once you're an adult, this isn't a problem, and it still is a problem. And
Mhm,
then I was like, okay, it's not just that I'm too lazy to do the things everybody else is doing. And like I
mhm.
actually have different ways of doing things and thinking about things that's making it difficult. So that was the first permission I gave myself to be like, it's not that you're a problem.
Mhm.
It's something else is going on.
Yeah.
And that just opened up the door. And I think, business owners get a little bit of a gift, I think, that mindset work and paying to get mindset work is quite justifiable when it's in the name of making more money in your business.
Right, right.
More so than, I have a job, I'm making money, it's fine, but I can't justify going and paying to help myself like unlock all these mindset blocks. But
Mhm.
in business, it's really important because obviously we gotta go make more money. Um, and so as a result, again, I had permission to go and do a bunch of more introspective work and learning about myself. And as I
Mhm.
did it, that's my own clients, they're all so different,
Wow.
right? How
Mhm.
can we ask everybody to do things one way when everybody's brain is different, when everybody's motivation is different? Of course the one thing doesn't motivate everybody. Of
So,
course.
so how do you figure out or how do you find the way to do that for you? In other words, how do you help people find what's right for them? Maybe for somebody it is working 40 or 50 hours a week.
Absolutely, right? And there's no that was also a lesson for me, like, if you like working 40 or 50 hours a week, like, go for it. Like,
Mhm.
power to you. It's just about saying, like, "Is this working for me, or am I trying to do something that doesn't work? Am I trying to
Mhm.
just keep, this brick wall, I'm just gonna keep trying to slam myself into it and hope I get to the other side." And I want everybody to back up and be like, "Is there a door over here? Like, let's just
Mhm.
stop if
Mhm.
this isn't working." Because that's what somebody says, "I really wanna do a thing. I've been trying to do it. I've been trying to do it." And I said, "Great. What are you gonna do next?" I'm like, "I'm just going to do it." I'm like, "No. No, 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 no. We've tried that. It just doesn't work."
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
So, what is something different you can try? And so it does. It takes some trial and error, but it most of all requires you to give yourself permission to not do it the way you thought it had to be done.
Exactly, exactly. I'm in that right now with the thought of doing some of the marketing work that I've done in the past for my programs. And I know that I have no interest in doing it the way that I've been taught, the way that I've done it, the way that, quote unquote works. And that the question that is up is something on the order of, okay, there's this mountain in front of me. Where's the elevator?
Yeah.
Let
No,
me
I
find
don't
that.
need a pickaxe and a I don't even know what the right words are.
Crampons,
Yeah.
crampons. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, so to that, because I think I even have used sort of a mountain climbing analogy before. I don't want to do it that way. Where's the elevator? Or like, is there somebody who can help me do it? And this
Yeah.
mentality that you need to figure it out and you need to be strong and you need to do it alone, or you need, right, like all of these things, like just let somebody guide you. There's not more value in you having been the first one to like break trail
Hmm. Hmm.
than it is for you to get on the paved road. It's just gonna be harder for you to get where you're going.
Yeah. So there's that combination, it sounds like, that you're saying of get guidance, maybe find a community. And I know both of those things are really valuable to you. But then there's also the piece of going inside, which, certainly my work, but I think that you have that as well, that value.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly the people I talk to, right? The people that I talk to are so hard on themselves. That
Mhm.
is right? It's like, why the reason that they're not finding success in their minds is because they suck, right? Like, if
Mhm.
I just
Mhm.
didn't do this, if I just did this, why don't right? It's all like this internal, like, I'm not good enough. I guess I don't deserve it. I guess I'm not right. All this stuff. That's who tends to come and talk to me. They feel like they're if they just if they could just stop being lazy.
Mm.
um, a lot of us, I because I still put myself in there, right? A lot of us were the ones who might have had that note on your report card growing up, like, could do better if applied themselves more,
Mhm,
not
mhm.
living up to potential. It's like that constant, like, I guess I didn't do as well as I should have. Everybody thinks I'm capable of so much, and I guess I'm just not.
Mm, mm. Ooh, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Mm,
Yeah, because it sets up a whole train of a way of treating oneself and believing about things that you believe about yourself. So we know that feeling that connection, feeling that sense of trust in yourself goes a long way to finding success in the way that I'd love for you to define. Like, if you think about success and defining success, what is success in your way of talking about it? I think that would be really helpful.
I think success is really personal. So first of all, it's making sure that you picked it for yourself, right? So stop and ask what it is that you want. Do you want, I mean, all the way back from like, do you want to go to college? Do you want to get a job in a corporate job and become a manager? Do you want to live
Mhm.
in, the house with the picket fence and the 2.5 kids and a dog and
Mhm.
an SUV? Or do you want to be a farmer? Like, there's so many things you can want to be,
Right.
and none of them are wrong, but I don't think that's what we were told growing up. That you're
Mhm.
supposed to want to be something. You're supposed to, right? And
Mhm.
something is, making a lot of money, and it's wanting to be established, and it's wanting to be a certain way. And I think it's okay to not want that. So if you went traveling
Mhm.
because your number one priority wasn't the next step of the path to getting the education,
Mhm.
that was like, it was almost like breaking a rule, right? You're like, oh,
Certainly was from my brother. I mean, the way he saw me. Yeah.
knowing that it's okay to do something like that and
Mm.
deciding what your success is the biggest piece of that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't I also think, like I said earlier, I sort of thought, well, then if I pick something else, like spending time with my family and doing these other things, it means I cannot also make good money. I think there's like a balance there, but first of all, it's what is success? For me, it's success feels like having an impact on other people's lives.
Mhm.
It means building a business that stays true to my values. It
Mhm.
means still having time to take care of my health and my family, still having a sense of self and time for me, because there are a lot of people who get, especially for me, I have 3 teenagers, right? When you're in the
Mhm.
age of taking care of everybody,
Mhm.
there are a lot of people who don't take any time for themselves
Mhm.
because they're too busy taking care of everybody else. So for me, and again, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, but I think the key is to spend some time and ask yourself, am I on my path or the one I was told I should want?
Mm.
And how and like, am I happy? Do I like it?
Yeah. Is this a path that feeds me, that nurtures me? Or is
Mhm.
it the one that I adopted because I didn't even know there was another option? And that's part of the question too, is the way that you're talking about things, and the way I certainly believe it to be true, is that there's endless numbers of paths. Endless. There's 8 billion people, there's 8 billion paths.
Mhm.
And how do we line up, or how do we create the path? Maybe that's the question. How do we create the path as we're walking on that journey? The path sort of creates itself, and to see what that is.
Yeah, I think you don't always need to know the destination at all, right? Like,
Mhm,
the whole
mhm.
enjoy the journey
Yeah.
piece of it is is part of it, and I think letting yourself have permission to to really try things and
Mhm.
ask yourself if you're happy and ask yourself if something's working and knowing that you can change your mind. So that's another big one,
Oh,
right?
yes.
If you think that you started a career and now you don't want to do it anymore and you want to quit, that is now failure versus time to pivot towards something else that feels good, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
have to have been, "Now this was all a waste. Now this was a mistake." But I think it feels that way.
It can, because of all the things that you talked about in the beginning, of the way in which we've been inculcated in our society to believe certain things. But if we take that and we say, okay, that nourishes me to, and I bring that into what I'm looking to explore next, because not everything is about, mm, following those sequential steps so that you get this promotion and that promotion and that goes there and that goes here. I look at what I'm doing now, and I think, well, I started out being a psychotherapist. I was in the field of psychology because of X, Y, and Z. And it wasn't that I grew disenchanted with that, is that as I grew, as I changed, other things opened up that were related, and I could take all of that into what I was doing next. And I even took it into being a solutions engineer in the tech world. And I took being a solutions engineer in the tech world into what I do now as part of creating with people what they want to create, their big ideas. So nothing is wasted if we really can look at it that way.
And I think potentially like you and I, who see it that way
Mhm.
and who don't feel like, "Why did I waste all my time? Why was everything was terrible? I guess I have to, I tear down everything I ever did that was good and start
Mhm.
again."
Mhm.
If we don't see it that way, but we think it's just like the next iteration of ourselves, like,
Mhm.
how exciting,
Yes.
and we can talk about that and show other people that it can be exciting and a good thing and not a failure. That's how
Mhm.
I think things start to change because most of the stories we've heard don't look like that.
Right, right. So is that part of what your mission is in your work?
I do. I mean, I see that in my work. I see it in there's a, talking about my ADHD. I also have endometriosis. I was quite sick for a while. I had to have surgery.
Mm,
And I talked about all of it. And people would say, "You're so brave to share this story."
mm.
And I thought, no, not really. It doesn't feel like it requires any courage for
Mhm.
whatever reason.
Right, right,
Um, I don't have there's nothing about telling you this that is requiring courage. I feel like it's just a thing to tell you.
right,
But if you think it requires bravery, that means that the idea of talking about this is scary.
right.
And so having people's voices who can share it without fear is
Mhm.
going to help the people who are scared
Mhm.
see, like, it's normalizing it. It's taking something into the light and being like, "Not scary, it's okay."
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so for me, I mean, I share my stories that, again, it doesn't feel scary to share them.
Mhm.
But then people private message me and people come to me and then they start asking me questions about themselves. I think maybe I need to whatever, whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
What do you think? Right? It feels like it's a hushed tone,
Mhm.
but now they have somebody they feel is safe to ask that question to because clearly I'm okay with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's how I hope that my impact is happening in the world, right? To talk
Mhm.
about these things, to show people what I've been through, to share my stories, to share the lessons I've learned, to talk about these philosophies I have around being anti-hustle culture, and to say, like, what if we just look at it differently? The more voices there are that people can relate to,
Mhm.
the more they're gonna realize, like, "Oh, maybe I'm not happy," right? I think there are people who don't even know they're not happy.
Right. Absolutely.
They're just kind of like, right, going, going, going.
Mhm.
Um, we're allowed to be happy, right? Like,
Well, there's
um,
something in there about the word that just came to me around passiveness.
mhm,
Um, People can do, and think that they're being active, but yet they're still expecting like some kind of magic to sort of happen, not because they feel aligned with what they're doing or aligned with creating something, but just because, oh yeah, I'm gonna manifest this because I got this picture. But there's not a they get so busy with the doing that they don't even allow a kind of an active receptivity to seeing what else could be, to seeing what other aspects of the path might add.
yeah. No, yeah, as you were talking, I just thought, I believe so much in community and connection,
Mm,
but also what I think so many people are missing without even connection to other people is connection to themselves. Like,
mhm,
they don't know who they are.
mhm.
I definitely have conversations with people who don't know what they want, right? Like,
Oh,
they what would I even want? They don't know how to connect to it.
mhm, mhm.
And I mean, the first step in all things is to know that it's possible, to know that it's happening, to know that there's something to consider, right? Before you start considering it, you need to know that you could consider it.
Right, right. There's something to consider, as you
Yeah.
say. Yeah. Yeah. I know I remember in my early days of being a psychotherapist, I would be surprised, and I think it was when I was training, by how many people, if I asked, like, what are you feeling right now? And they had no ability to identify that. They just literally didn't know. And then I realized I didn't know when I was in situations where I had to do the same, what am I feeling? I don't know. I didn't know how to discover that. I didn't know how to listen. I didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And without being able to, I couldn't know what I wanted to shift. I couldn't know what I wanted.
Yeah. And I think that that's why it's important for people like us to talk about it,
Mhm,
because there are a lot of really loud voices out there, and have been forever, saying a lot of different things, right? So
mhm,
people, right, they've people learn from other people. So all of the voices that they've
mhm,
heard and have learned from, there are a lot of really loud ones that aren't saying what we are saying. And
mhm.
so I think when you start having other voices who are having conversations, and you're like, oh, okay, that's a
Mhm,
thing.
mhm, mhm.
Um, maybe I could decide that I don't need to do everything when it comes to a holiday dinner the way my mother did it.
Right, right.
Maybe I don't need to, because I don't actually care, and I'm only doing it because I think I'm supposed to,
Yeah.
right? Like, what are all the little examples in our lives of things that we're doing, but I don't have to do that. I could just not.
So you're blowing open the field of possibilities.
I hope so. I hope so. I think that there are a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis who tell me they start to hear my voice on their shoulder when they're starting, and they're like, "Oh, maybe you don't need to say yes to that person."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's wonderful. That is really wonderful because that is turning on the lights.
Mhm.
It really is. Um, it strikes me that you talked earlier about writing a book, and it strikes me that it sounds like you're writing the Laziness Manifesto.
My
Or-
working title right now is called You're Not Lazy: How to Find Success Even If You Feel Like a Hot Mess.
Okay.
That's my working title, but
Or
it's a
maybe it's, and I'm not meaning to give you a title. It's like something of maybe you are successful, even if you feel like you're a hot mess.
which is basically what the book is, right?
Wow.
So that's what it is in the end. It's like, you
Mhm.
think this? Haha, guess what?
Mhm. Mhm.
Guess what? All you need to do is reframe a whole bunch of what it is that you think is going on
Yeah.
and start seeing what's actually already working. I mean, in
Mm.
all things, one of the things I do as a business coach with my clients is every week I ask people to tell me what their wins were from the week. And I say that because you are not ever going to have nothing on your to-do list.
Right. Right.
But if you think that your measure of success is whether or not you got everything done, which for some reason, regardless of the fact that we all, especially as entrepreneurs, have endless ideas of new things that we could do, and the possibilities are endless. So these to-do lists are never going to be, it's not like an inbox zero situation. Like, we're not trying to get that, but we think we're supposed to. We, and so the to-do list never ends, and therefore we have never succeeded. And therefore,
Mhm.
all of the things we've accomplished in any given week get forgotten because there's so much more to do.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's what we focus on. And what I have found is in my Inner Guidance Mastery Blueprint course, I teach people how to listen, how to use their inner guidance system so that they look at their to-do list and find what really is the thing they're to do next. And it's not the most important. But if we open to that bigger picture of what's guiding us or what's available to guide us, we may get to see something that's fifth or sixth on the list, and that for some reason we're shown to do that, and that takes care of 1 through 4 in a way that seems like magic. And it takes away the stress, and it allows the assistance of the seen and the unseen to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not everything needs to be done. Not everything, like, it's that frantic what's next that stops us
Mhm.
from seeing what's already working,
Mhm. And what's possible.
possible, what is, what's
Mhm.
already true within you, what you're already capable of.
Mhm.
And that's a lot of what I hope that people can start to see, right? So instead of seeing, but have you seen how much I haven't done yet? They see, but look at what I did do,
Yes.
and look at how well I did it, even without having
Mhm.
to only sleep 2 hours a night and burn out and make myself
Mhm.
sick.
Yeah. And be
Yeah.
really crabby at my family.
Imagine.
Laura, how can people connect with you? Where can people find you?
So I am, my business is called The Biz Studio. So if you come to thebiz.studio is my website, you can find me.
BIZ.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and I dabble a little bit in TikTok, which is just under my name, Lara Wellman.
Okay. Okay. So great. And your company name or your
The
website?
Biz Studio.
The
Yes,
Biz
the Biz
Studio. Okay.
Studio. And so that's where I have a Facebook group on, and I have lots of ways that people can come and hear stories and come and hear reminders of what's working. And then I also do the strategy and the actual, more tactical stuff, but there's so much of it that's just around what's going to allow me to see what's working and what I'm capable of and how
Mhm.
I'm gonna get there.
Wonderful. Ah, thank you so much. I just heard you pronounce your name differently than I realized I pronounced it. So do you say Lara?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't think I ever realized that. So, Lara, thank you so much for being here with us on Wisdom Talk Radio. I really appreciate your insight and your permission.
Mm,
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
you are welcome. Mhm. And thanks to our listening audience for being with us today at Wisdom Talk Radio. Join us here regularly for more wisdom, discovery, and illumination. And remember, you can find us at your favorite place to listen to your podcasts. We're on all the different platforms. And if you've enjoyed listening today, please leave us a review, because as you leave us a review and people see that, what happens is that helps spread the wisdom and the transformation of the world. So, and that's what we're about. And for more about how to deepen your connection with your own inner guidance, take the Quantum Connection quiz today.
Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.